All right, you two, we back with another one, man. Today, I'm gonna be installing this Johnny Glocks Vex trigger shoe. This is basically just a shoe upgrade for the Glock performance trigger. So if you have the performance trigger and you're not a big fan of the shoe like I am, this is the perfect upgrade for it. In my opinion, I've seen a lot of good things about it. If y'all know Johnny Glocks and y'all know that he's the master in trigonometry, if that makes sense. He makes some great trigger kits, man. Connectors, full kits, drop in trigger shoes like the one you see I got right here. And I feel like I just like the slimmer profile. I even like the feel of it. I believe this is aluminum, if I'm not mistaken. It does feel really premium in the hand. It's got some weight to it, believe it or not, for such a slim little trigger shoe. After shooting the Glock performance trigger for some time, I've had this on my gun for about 2 years. And, it takes a while for you to get used to some. That's why I don't like when these big names out here get these stuff sent to them, because they only go and shoot 50 rounds out of this shit. And they give you a fake opinion on a gun when they barely even know about it, or a part to a gun. Like, how can you tell me you know anything about this trigger when you've only shot 2 boxes of ammo through it? You know what I mean? I feel like you really got to put something to the test for you to really see if you like it or not. It's hard for you to say if you like a gun or a part on a gun that you're testing out, whether it be an optic, a trigger, a new grip module, whatever it is, whatever y'all into, you know what I mean? In order for you to really know if you like something, you have to try it out. And I'm not saying go to the range and shoot 100 rounds for you to see if you like the shit. You have to really go ahead and just test it, run a few hundred rounds down range, at least 1,000 in my opinion, whether you testing out a new gun, a new trigger. I feel like the minimum is at least 1,000 to really see if you're gonna like something or not. And to be honest, after 2 years with this trigger, about, I would say 1,500 rounds through it, I like the trigger. Don't get me wrong, the Glock performance trigger, I feel like it is an upgrade from the standard trigger, but I do feel like it could use a couple of tweaks. And I'm not really big on triggers, man. I'm not really a trigger snob. To be honest, this is like the first time I've ever really gotten this close into triggers. I've never changed the triggers on any of my other guns, only this one. And because I wasn't really a fan of the 19X, the trigger on it, you know what I mean? And it's weird because on all my other Glocks, I don't really mind them, especially like the heavy caliber Glocks. I wouldn't mess with anything on the trigger, like the housing, the connectors, any of that. It's 40 cal, 10 millimeter, my 357 Glock. I would not mess with the trigger on that. I really only wanted to mess with this because I knew that 9mm is a much flatter shooter than those other calibers, and I wanted to kind of get a little bit better performance out of it. So I went with the Glock trigger because it's still OEM part at the end of the day. It's not like I went for like a Timony trigger or Alpha, Apex, or anything like that. I went straight for the OEM because I wanted to keep this gun as close to OEM as possible. I didn't want to do too much to it. As far as the internals, I kind of really didn't want to mess with the internals. So I didn't upgrade the striker, the firing pin, or nothing like that. Just strictly the drop-in OEM Glock performance kit. And like I said, after dealing with it for some time, I'm not really a big fan of the trigger. As you can see right there, you see that little bit of gripe that you could hear, like that click. I don't like that. It's not really smooth when you go to hit the trigger safety bar. The safety lever, it kind of makes like a weird noise, and occasionally when I'm shooting fast at the range, I can actually outrun this trigger. It gets hung up on the reset a lot, and I do believe it has a lot to do with the shoe. When I looked it up, a lot of people were complaining about the shoe. It gets hung up sometimes on the frame, and that has happened to me. Like, as you can see how low it is to the frame. And I know they came out with another generation Glock performance trigger, but I didn't feel like going ahead and getting a whole brand new system because I feel like this one's already broken in, or at least close to broken in, rather than me going to get a new trigger and have to mess around with it and probably running into other problems. I've never had any real issues with this. I had a set of bad ammo that wasn't striking. I was getting light primer strikes like my second time to the range with this trigger, and that was only the type of ammo that I had. I forgot which brand of ammo it was. I couldn't even tell you, because that's literally when I first bought the trigger, and I didn't really like it. I wasn't a fan of it. So I never bought that ammo again. I don't know what it was. I couldn't tell you. Like I said, I don't want to give you the wrong name, but I had light primer strikes about 10 or 15 rounds from what I can remember. And that was it. It never happened to me again. I mean, I went home, I cleaned the trigger, I cleaned the gun out, you know, oiled up everything that needed to be oiled up. And since then, I've never had any issues. My real gripe with the trigger is the trigger shoe itself. I feel like it's just oversized. It's too big, in my opinion. I would like something a little bit slimmer. And that's the one thing I do miss about my Echelon. My Echelon, the trigger on that was perfect. I liked it, the trigger, how it broke, because it was a heavy trigger with a nice, definable wall. I feel like this one gives you a little bit too much pre-travel, in my opinion. And then the wall is almost like, it's almost like not defined to me. Like, it's not like a for certain wall, like, if that makes sense. With the Echelon, you knew when you were at the wall and you knew when that trigger was gonna break. And I think that's what it was. I got spoiled with the slim trigger shoe, and I feel like this trigger shoe is just harder to wrap around, you know, because even the OEM Glock trigger has a slimmer trigger shoe, and I like that trigger shoe. I'm not a big fan of the curve on the OEM trigger. I wish that if this was slim like the OEM trigger, it would be perfect. But because they made it so wide, the blade is like just super hard to get wrapped around, at least for me. And when you do get wrapped around it, like I said, you get a little hung up right there. So as you can see, that's the break, that's the wall. The wall for me just doesn't feel defined. It's almost scary, like, for safety reasons. You know what I mean? Like, I can play around with it dry firing, and sometimes I'll set the trigger off without even trying. So it's like when you hit the wall, it's not defined. It's like, it's not a for certain that the trigger's not going to go off when you hit the wall. That's what the wall's for. It's supposed to stop you and let you know when you're about to break. But for this, there's a few times where I would hit it like that and it would just break on me. Like, it's almost like it's not for certain that the wall's going to stop you from breaking the trigger. And like I said, occasionally it gets hung up on the frame when you're shooting fast at the range. And like I said, you can't outrun this trigger. And I don't like that, because I like to shoot fast sometimes when I'm rapid firing, and I would get hung up on the trigger and it wouldn't want to reset. It would fail to reset. And a lot of people said that came from not cleaning it. I clean this trigger after every range visit and I oil it. So I don't know what that's about. I think that it has a lot to do with the shoe. After really dialing it in and really going out and shooting it, I feel like it's the shoe that's causing it to get hung up on the reset. So when it does break, you do have a little bit of a rolling break, which I don't really mind that. But this is another thing that gets me. I don't like the reset. You see how it pushes you out almost to where you have to reset the entire trigger again. And I'll show you again for those that can't really tell. I'm going to release. And look how far that spring just pushed me out. Almost to the point that I might as well let go, because it's damn near at the beginning of the trigger before you even press the trigger to get to the wall. It's basically at the beginning. So I'll do it again for you. There's me releasing, trying to find that reset, and it literally pushes you out. The reset should not be that far. And I feel like that's also another issue of why I get hung up at the range when I'm trying to rapid fire, because the reset is so far, it's almost not allowing the trigger to reset. So when I'm shooting, it's pushing me out further than what I need to. And sometimes I'll just get hung up and just have to restart my entire rapid fire session again. You know what I mean? So it's kind of annoying, because I want to be able to be right there. You know what I mean? When I had the Echelon, I was able to rapid fire that with no issues at all, because the reset was on par and it was tactile. You know, like the click was loud, for better words. For those of y'all that don't know what I mean by tactile, you could just hear the click loudly. You know what I mean? For hood terms, for better terms. When you hear that click, you know. This one doesn't give you that. That's the break, and then back to the wall. You can hear it, but it just pushes you out too far to the point that you might as well just let go and just start over again. So we're going to get rid of that today. I'm going to be installing this trigger. I'm going to get this on here because I don't want YouTube to strike me. YouTube, we're not doing no live installs. I'm just replacing the OEM part. So I'll be right back, y'all. Give me a second. All right, y'all, we back. So that took a lot longer than I thought it would, man. After countless hours of trying to get this damn trigger shoe on, we finally got it on. And as you can see, it's obviously a much sharper blade profile than the Glock Performance trigger shoe. And when I tell you, man, that thing was a pain to get off, believe my words, man. There's almost no instructions on there. whatsoever that you get sent out with to see how to get the shoe off. There's like almost no videos on it. Thankfully, I was able to look up Johnny Glocks, and there's a tutorial on there. So I was able to go off of that just to get the shoe off. But so far, first impressions, man, I definitely like the trigger shoe. I like the slim profile look. Like I said, kind of reminds me of my Echelon, that nice duty style trigger. I really do like it. It has like that flat blade look, and this is definitely aluminum. You can feel it when you actually get the trigger shoe on here. You feel it more than when it's just hanging off, you know, just sitting around. When you actually get it installed on the gun, you can definitely feel the difference on it. It just feels more premium even to the touch. Now, I'm still getting it dialed in because there is a little castle nut that's on the back, and I have to keep taking the gun apart, and obviously I can't do that on camera. I don't want YouTube flagging me for that, so I had to keep on trying to get that off. And if you overdial it, then you gotta take it off and get it back on. Then you have to redial it. So yeah, man, all in all, just don't get into any type of other parts than what you're supposed to when it comes to Glocks, man. The more you mess with these things, the more trouble you're gonna run into. And I'm already a few dollars down in the hole as far as my investment, so I might as well go ahead and, you know, spend the extra dollar just to kind of get it where I wanted it, which is why I got the trigger shoe in the first place. But all in all, if I would have never messed around with it in the first place, then it would have been fine. So that's just my honest opinion on it, man. Don't get into doing anything that you're not supposed to, for better terms. But me personally, I like it. Like I said, I just have to do a little bit more dialing in. But so far, I definitely can see that the pre-travel is definitely eliminated. Like, as you can see, I'm hitting the safety blade, and that's the wall right there. So as you can see in the beginning of the video with the Glock Performance fat face trigger instead of flat face, for better words, that trigger is huge, man. That trigger shoe is huge compared to this. I feel like I can even get my finger wrapped around this a lot easier. But as y'all can see, the advertisement is not lying. It's definitely no pre-travel, almost no pre-travel whatsoever. That's the blade right there. That's your safety blade. And that's your take up right there. That's your wall. And an immediate break. And then there's your reset. The trigger is going dead on me every few resets. So that's what I'm saying. I'm still tuning it. I'm trying to get it to where I need to get it at. So do keep in mind, y'all, I'm not a gunsmith. So do not take my video for an instructional video. This is literally my first time installing a trigger shoe, let alone the Glock Performance trigger. That was an easy drop in. I didn't have to do nothing when I got that. If you know, you know. When they send you the OEM trigger, and YouTube, we are messing with OEM factory parts, man. I'm not installing anything that's out of the ordinary. This is OEM Glock parts, so please don't flag the video. You already know, man. I know them disclaimers. Once again, they get annoying, but I got to do what I got to do. So, yeah, pretty much this is my first time installing a trigger shoe. The drop-in kit for the Glock was super easy. I had to just take apart the slide, and it dropped right in. But with the trigger shoe, you got to do a little bit more research, a little bit more digging. If you're not experienced with this stuff, I recommend you take your time, man, because you will bang some stuff up if you don't pay attention to what you're doing. So like I said, the pre-travel is gone. Like, literally, that's your safety blade. Once you hit that, you're at the wall. Literally, just, you can see that little bit of travel from when you hit the safety blade to the wall. And I'll show you a little bit more up close. That's your break right there. An immediate break. That's your reset. Brings you right back to that wall. Unlike the Glock Performance trigger shoe, it'll push you all the way out. I mean, I noticed a few people that do the, even Johnny Glocks himself tapes up the trigger guard to show you how much further it breaks out opposed to the Vex trigger shoe that I have here. And it does go out a lot further. And if you watch the beginning of my video, you can see I'm not lying. The OEM Performance shoe, the reset brings you out a lot farther, almost kind of like out here where my index finger is. And as you can see with the reset here, it almost doesn't go anywhere, and it brings you right back to that wall. So for follow-up shots, definitely should be a breeze. I'm psyched to see how it's gonna be. I've been dry firing it a ton before I even did the video just to make sure I got it. But like I said, the trigger was going dead every couple of racks, it was going dead. Every couple of racks, like when I would go to reset, it would die out on me. Like when I would come back to the wall and hit the trigger, it would die. But as you can see, it's not doing it. And I think that's just it getting dialed in from just re-racking it and showing y'all the demonstration. But I will be taking this thing to the range tomorrow because honestly, as y'all know, I had just got my Glock back from Maple Leaf Firearms not too long ago. And I did shoot about 600 rounds through it when I took it to the range for my last session. I have not shot it since then. So what I'm going to do is tomorrow, I'm probably going to run a few more hundred rounds through this gun because this thing is really stiff still, man. The slide, the Cerakote on the slide, look, as you can see, once I get that first rack in, the slide becomes immediately, as you can see, loosened. But when I pull the trigger and I go to rack again, notice how there's some resistance there. So I definitely got to break this thing in. I know that doesn't have anything to do with the video, but all in all, I'm psyched to just go ahead and run some more rounds down this thing. And definitely, I will be testing out this trigger tomorrow. I'm going to try to do a few hundred rounds, like I said, because I want to make sure that this thing is running. If I had 1,000 rounds to spare, I would do it, but I do not have 1,000 rounds to spare right now. A few hundred at best, and that's still doing too much. So I'm probably not going to carry this gun again until I get the trigger dialed in where I want it. And I need to make sure that this trigger is reliable with the new shoe installed, which I don't expect it not to be, because given Johnny Glocks' reputation, man, I don't expect it to perform any other way. But like I said, I have to be sure on my end and do my homework. So just because I run a couple hundred rounds tomorrow does not mean I'm going to be carrying this thing. Honestly, I'm not going to even carry it regardless, because I've actually been carrying my Glock 32 and my 945 Industries bag. So that's something that I've been testing out, and I do have another review coming for that as well. I'm basically doing a 30-day challenge on that. Not a challenge, but just a 30-day test with the 945 Industries bag, just to see how I like it, so I can give you a real impression on it. I don't want to carry it for 2 days and say it's a go. So I've definitely been carrying that thing every day. I have not been carrying in the waistband. So either way, this gun is not getting carried anytime soon. But it'll be good to know that this trigger definitely is going to be worth the go, the trigger shoe. And I don't have to end up putting back my OEM Glock Performance trigger shoe. So stay tuned for that, man. I know I did a lot of blabbering on this video. I appreciate y'all if y'all still for this long, man, more than y'all ever know. So please hit that subscribe button, like the video, share the video, man. It does get me out to the algorithm. I appreciate it. I know that stuff is annoying when you got to say that, but hey, look, I'm just a small channel, man. I'm still growing. So like I said, I do appreciate y'all, but that's all I got for y'all today, man. So I'm going to end the video here. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Y'all be safe out there.